it's considered an all-female team, then it would be all biological females.
That's the goal for Louisiana State Senator Beth Mizell. She's introduced Senate Bill 156, which would require women's athletic teams at public institutions be made up only of, quote, biological females.
A lot of the efforts in the past has been to level the playing field for women in sports, and I see this as just a continuance of that effort.
It's one of 4 pieces of legislation introduced during the 2021 session that critics say are anti-transgender.
They're not proposing these bills in good faith.
Adrienne Critcher is the Political and Communications Director for PACE. She says these bills are solutions in search of a problem.
They want to create a boogeyman because they really have other agendas in mind that they'd like for you to ignore while they scare you with problems that just do not exist.
While Mizell admits she doesn't know of a case in Louisiana of a transgender female participating in female sports, she looks at her bill as a preemptive measure.
If we're preventing a situation that would create a really uncomfortable situation before it can happen, then I believe that's a good thing.
The bills also pose another issue. New Orleans is currently set to host the 2022 Final Four, an event that could bring millions of dollars to the state. But the NCAA says that could be in jeopardy if this legislation passes.
This is extortion as far as I can see. The NCAA does not tell the state of Louisiana what to think any more than they would on any other issue.
For your local election headquarters, I'm Brad Cesak.
Is Donald Trump guilty of inciting a violent mob against the United States?
That's the question at the heart of the second impeachment trial for the former president. But some senators have seemingly made up their minds.
I don't believe that President Trump will be convicted.
Louisiana Senator John Kennedy says there simply isn't a case.
I have seen no evidence whatsoever, none, zero, zilch, nada, that would lead me to convict President Trump.
Kennedy is one of 100 jurors in the case. So is his Louisiana colleague, Senator Bill Cassidy. He says there are 3 criteria for a conviction.
Is it constitutional? Even if it is constitutional, is it the right thing to do for reasons I could elaborate on? And lastly, are the charges correct? Is the president guilty?
Now, in terms of the constitutionality criteria, Kennedy thinks there's no argument.
You don't have to be Judge Judy to understand that these proceedings are of dubious constitutionality.
It's an assessment his friends across the aisle don't agree with.
The trial is clearly constitutional by every frame of analysis.
After all of the arguments are heard, everything will come down to a simple yes or no vote. But Cassidy is not ready to make that judgment.
My responsibility is to listen to the evidence before announcing my vote.
For your election headquarters, I'm Brad Cesak. 7 states have passed hair discrimination laws, and if State Representative Tammy Phelps has her way, Louisiana is next.
I'm just committed to just bringing a little bit of relief for hair discrimination.
For this upcoming legislative session, Phelps has introduced House Bill 189, which would prohibit intentional discrimination in employment in regard to natural hairstyles.
Just because you don't understand the locks or the twists or what heritage it comes from doesn't mean that you can discriminate, hire, bring harassment, fire, or just have chaos over a hairstyle.
Phelps says a 2018 story of an 11-year-old New Orleans girl who was removed from class because of her hairstyle initially brought hair discrimination to her attention.
I cannot imagine 11 years old and having to go through something like that. And it seems as if African Americans are on the struggle again for some of the small things.
The bill will now go before the House Committee on Labor and Industrial Relations. Phelps says if it eventually gets the governor's signature, the bill will open new doors.
It seems so small, but it's so big, and it makes such a difference.